What is going on at the Olympics? Was there men competing against women? Did male boxers physically punch and beat of women right in front of our eyes? We are diving all into that this episode of This Is a Woman podcast. If you are watching on YouTube, you can tell there is a little bit of a different background. I am currently in Alaska, and so I am outside recording this, so you might hear some cars drive by, but if you see, look how beautiful Alaska is. If you're just listening, then go to the YouTube because then you can see the beautiful Alaska view. But the reason I'm recording in Alaska is I've had this podcast episode lined up and ready to go with you all. We have a great guest on today. Her name is Cary, and she is a Olympic level boxing coach. And so we are diving into what is happening in the Olympics. So again, we recorded this a week ago, but I wanted to wait till we got through the gold medals to put this out and give you guys the lowdown of what the heck is going on in the Olympics. Is there really men boxing against women? What's the truth? What's not? What's the latest news? And so we kind of have some of the most updated news now. And so I felt like it was the best time to dive into this. So with that, I'm sure you have all heard rumors of there's males boxing against females in the Olympics. There's not males, maybe they're just females. It's all these transphobic people that are saying these things. These aren't even trans people. There's been so many things going around. I've made some social media posts on Instagram, and currently the This Is a Woman podcast Instagram account is still active. You can go follow it. You can go check it out. I cannot access it still. Why? Because I called a man a man. And so what is going on? Well, we have two boxers. We have an Algerian boxer, Imane Khelif, and a Taiwanese boxer, Ting. And both these boxers, people start saying, that's a male, that's a male. And then it's, why is the Olympics letting males box? So we have the IBA, the International Boxing Association. Then we have the IOC, the International Olympic Committee. For the Olympics, the only sport that doesn't have like a specific governing body that the Olympic Committee is just doing it is boxing. So we have the two boxers, the Algerian boxer and the Taiwanese boxer, and we start getting these reports that they're males, they have XY chromosomes. Why are they boxing in the Olympics? Oh, because their passport says they're female, which again, you can always change what a passport says. And so this kind of started to break the news when we saw Imane Khelif, the Algerian one, compete against Angela Carini. And Carini, after 46 seconds of the fight, forfeited the fight, and then later said it was the hardest punch she's ever taken to a face. Why? Because she was boxing against a man. So let's kind of dive into all this. The Carini fight happened, and then the IBA came out and had a press conference stating that they had previously not allowed either of these boxers to compete in the IBA due to the fact that they had male chromosomes, but they weren't releasing too much. So let's kind of dive into what they released on their August 5th press conference. They had this press conference at Paris. And so different highlights from that were that both boxers were initially subjected to a chromosomal test by an independent laboratory in Istanbul after the IBA received complaints from coaches and competitors during the 2022 Women's World Boxing Champions. So both boxers were retested in India again during the 2023 Women's World Boxing Championships to clarify and confirm the results of 2022. Both boxers were found to have XY chromosomes. Both boxers were informed of the results of the test in writing. Both boxers were given the opportunity to appeal the findings to the Court of Arbitration for Sports. The IBA offered to even pay for the majority of the cost to allow both boxers to appeal. Ting did not appeal the decision, and Imane Khelif appealed the decision and then withdrew the appeal. So, on that note, I know myself as a former college athlete, as a woman, if anyone ever had questions when it came to athletics, let's say, and said, oh, rumor has it Sophia might be a male, Sophia might have XY chromosomes, I immediately would appeal any decisions because that's not true. As well as I would say, let's do the cheek swab test. Let's put out the test results. Let's prove the truth. So when you have nothing to hide, you're gonna fight for the truth. And so the fact that one of them did not appeal, again, Ting, the Taiwanese boxer, did not appeal. The Algerian boxer did appeal and then withdrew the appeal. And so the IBA came out, had this press conference, announced all of that, where they did also let us know that they informed the IOC, they informed the Olympics of the situation, and the Olympics did nothing. They informed them before the boxing even started happening. So during this press conference, again, the International Boxing Association did it solely to address the issues around Imane Khelif and Lin Yuting. And so Dr. Philippodos, the former chair of the IBA Medical Committee and an OBGYN with 3 decades of experience, spoke out during it, and he confirmed that neither Lin nor Khelif are biological females, and he slammed the IOC for using passports as a system for determining gender. And so, if you're in the United States, you know there's some states that have even now passed laws that allow you to change what sex you were born as on your birth certificate. So we can't go off of what these birth certificates say, what the passports say. We have to go off of biology. And he is saying that he can confirm that neither of them are biological females. And so he had a great quote I want to read to you all. It says, "Medicine is knowledge. It is not an opinion. One passport can give us the opportunity to be men. And tomorrow when I go back to Athens, I can go to my government and change my name from Ionis to Ionia. That means I am a woman tomorrow. Please. The nature and the biological world do not change." And so that was really powerful. But again, there's still people on my social media alone. I was getting attacks from a lot of Taiwanese people for saying that Lin Yuting was a man. And so where are we at now? Well, the boxing is over in the Olympics, and Imane Khelif and Lin Yuting, a lot of people are saying, oh, they were going to be up against each other for gold. That's not true. They were in different weight categories. So they actually both received gold in their respective category, which means 2 women lost out the chance to get gold, which also means women lost out on the chance to get silver, bronze, etc. And so both Imane and Lin Yuting competed 4 times. That means 8 different women in the Olympics had to box against a male. And so, what we saw for the gold for the weight group that Khelif was in was Algeria's Imane Khelif defeated China's Yang Liu, the reigning IBA Women's World Championship, for the women's welterweight gold at the Paris Olympics. So, again, Khelif was disqualified from competing against Liu just the year before in IBA. IBA disqualified Khelif for having XY chromosomes. Then China's Yang Liu won in the IBA's Women's World Championship. The Olympic Committee didn't disqualify Khelif. Thus, Khelif beat Liu for the gold medal. We then saw a day later Taiwan's Lin Yuting defeated Poland's Julia Cezermeta for women's featherweight gold, representing the second women's boxing gold that has gone to a biological male at the Paris Olympics. Cezermeta also began bleeding during the 3rd round. And so we are at this point, we are glorifying male violence against females. And again, a lot of people are still saying, but we don't really know we don't know. They have a DSD disease, so we have to be sensitive to that. Absolutely. That does create a different situation than when we see these just grown men identifying as a woman to box in the women's situation. This is a different situation than when we normally see. And so Colin Wright, he's a biologist. I was actually just with him in DC about 2 weeks ago now. Super incredibly intelligent. He put out an article on August 11th, so just 3 days ago. And I wanted to read a little bit of that to you guys because it really, from a biologist point of view, really clears up and puts it straight to the point what's going on. And so he said, this week, 2 male boxers won gold medals in Olympic women's boxing, Imane Khelif of Algeria and Taiwan's Lin Yuting. This was a truly incredible feat, not a feat of athleticism, but rather of sheer incompetence on behalf of the International Olympic Committee for allowing it to happen. Despite being disqualified by the International Boxing Association in 2023 for multiple failed DNA tests, which the IOC had been explicitly warned about prior to the Paris Olympics, these male boxers were still permitted to pummel woman after woman on their way to Olympic gold. The public backlash has been understandably intense. After all, allowing males to compete against women in any Olympic sport undermines fairness for women. But allowing males to compete against women in combat sports like boxing is not only profoundly unfair, but also extremely dangerous. Despite the controversy, After winning the Olympic gold, Khelif filed a legal complaint with the Paris prosecutor's office for online harassment and purportedly false claims about Khelif's sex during the Paris Olympics. Although there is no valid reason to doubt the IBA's claim that Khelif and Ting are biologically male, many still refuse to concede the point until the DNA test results are made public, an unlikely scenario due to medical privacy regulations. On top of this, the athletes' home countries have insisted that these DNA results remain tightly sealed. Nevertheless, IBA officials have told the public to read between the lines concerning the failed DNA tests and their XY chromosome requirement for competing in the female category. Both boxers and their supporters are attempting to create the appearance of a stalemate, even though the athletes could quickly and conclusively disprove these claims if they are indeed false. Considering the IBA has publicly stated that both boxers failed a DNA test conducted in labs approved by the Court of Arbitration for Sports, and given there's no credible reason or incentive for them to lie, the burden of proof now lies with Khelif and Ting to refute these claims. Their silence and secrecy are telling. And so Colin goes on, and Colin's now written a couple articles. And again, this is Colin Wright. You can go read more from him at Reality's Last Stand. Go follow him on Twitter. He puts out great information. Another group is Redux, REDUXX. They have been putting out great blog posts, information on this situation. So definitely go check out the two of them. But Colin Wright dove into the fact that they have DSD, and he gave out a couple different options of DSD that they could have. In this new article, he was able to kind of narrow it down to which DSD they would have, solely because Khelif's trainer, so one of Khelif's former trainers, just kind of spilled the beans in a news interview with the French magazine Le Point. So Le Point spoke with Dr. Georges Cazorla, a scientific advisor and a member of the scientific committee of the Monstade Center for Evaluation and Physical Preparation in France. Dr. Cazorla played a crucial role in developing a rigorous training program to prepare Khelif for the Paris Olympics. So during this interview, he confirmed that the IBA's decision to disqualify Khelif was based on tests and further claimed they were biological tests. And he emphasized that the issue falls within the peer review of biologists and doctors. And Dr. Cazorla said that following the test, Khelif was devastated to be suddenly discovered that she might not be a girl. When asked if Khelif's team in Algeria was aware of Khelif's condition, he stated they're 50,000 leagues away from these biological aspects and were simply happy to have a good boxer. And so Dr. Cazorla kind of went into the different situations on how they were balancing Khelif's testosterone level and all of that. And so, because of what the doctor came out and said about the testosterone level, Colin Wright was then able to say he thought there was a couple different DSDs that Khelif could have, and based off the new information from the doctor, this is what Colin Wright said. As I've maintained from the beginning, Khelif most likely has 5-ARD. Males with this condition often present at birth with female-appearing or ambiguous genitalia, leading to potential misclassification as female. However, appearances can be deceiving. People with 5-ARD possess fully functional internal testes that produce male levels of testosterone during puberty. Moreover, those with 5-ARD are fully responsive to testosterone, meaning they undergo a typical male puberty, and their bodies will respond to lowering those testosterone levels. Khelif meets all these criteria because the doctor talked about how they did different things to try to lower Khelif's testosterone, which isn't possible with some of the other DSDs. That's why Colin Wright has come to the conclusion that it must be 5-ARD. Colin Wright continues to say, despite these revelations, activists will undoubtedly continue to deny or ignore them. They will persist in pretending to have forced a stalemate and insist that we must therefore default to the IOC's decision, allowing Khelif to compete as a woman and win Olympic gold. However, those of us who are paying close attention have the ability to see through the smokescreen of ideological jargon, can rest assured that Khelif is biologically male and most likely has 5-ARD. So that's where we are at today. More and more evidence is coming out that these boxers do have XY chromosomes, and that means they have the testosterone of a man. That means they have these athletic abilities that women cannot achieve because males and females are different. And so we actually did see if some of the women push back. I wish I could play clips of some of the boxing situations. I wish I could play clips of some of the women's pushing back. And what I mean by pushing back is I think it's now three different boxers we saw do the XX symbol with their fingers, basically saying, woman, this is for woman, because that's what our chromosomes are, XX versus males are XY. Again, if I were to post it on this clip, unfortunately, the Paris Olympics is doing a really good job about reporting people for copyright, taking down the videos, trying to do all they can to cover this up. So I will not be posting on this YouTube video any of the clips. But if you head over to Twitter, you can see plenty of the clips. I'm Sophia S. Laurie on Twitter, and I've retweeted a bunch, posted a bunch. Those have been staying up a little bit better, but for the sake of this not getting pulled down, I'm not going to put them directly onto this video. But again, that's where we are at.
Women are currently being erased in culture, and I want to amplify their voices and share their stories.
So our guest today is Cary WIlliams, and she has been in the boxing and fitness industry for over 27 years. She is now a level 4 Olympic level boxing coach with USA Boxing. She has trained many boxers, some of which have made it to the Olympic trial qualifying tournaments. Cary caught the attention of many when she trained and cornered a female boxer for 3 Olympic qualifying tournaments, all done without the help of an assistant coach in the corner for each fight. Cary also boxed competitively in the amateurs and won the Pacific Northwest Women's Tournament before hanging up her gloves. She has been seen all over NBC, CBS, ABC, Fox, USA Today, New York Times. So she has been everywhere. She founded Primetime Boxing Incorporated and created Primetime Boxing Club, a nonprofit organization that offers scholarship programs to pay for the training, equipment, and travel expenses of disadvantaged children. Cary grew Primetime Boxing Inc. to 4 boxing clubs in California and has even started franchising in 2008. Cary has also taken her years of experience in boxing, fitness, and gym world to create something unique for women in combat sports, Tussle. So Tussle not only designs and creates gear specifically for girls and women, but also gloves that are most versatile on the market. Before now, boxing gloves needed to be taken off to lift weights, get water, use a phone, etc. With an eye for innovation and a portfolio of Olympic-level boxers and everyday gym warriors, Cary created a boxing glove that will never interrupt a workout. Convenient, but with a beautiful, high-quality design. So we are going to chat, and you're going to be able to hear my conversation with Cary, and we discussed all about what is going on
at the Olympics. So let's dive right in.
Hello, Cary, and welcome to This is a Woman Podcast. We are so excited to have you on.
Yes, thank you for having me.
Yes. So, unless if people have been living under a rock, you wouldn't miss what's happening at the Olympics right now, especially in boxing. We have seen there was a little bit of controversy. Is there men in the women's boxing? Is there not? What's going on? They have XY chromosomes, they don't. There's a ton going on with that, and we are going to dive into it. But with that first, Cary, the guests have already heard a little bit about your background. You are an Olympic level USA boxing coach. You are the founder of Tussle, which is women's fight gear made by her for her. So you have a background in this whole boxing. You understand boxing more than most women do. So let's dive into a little bit about your background with boxing.
For sure. So about 27 years ago, I opened my first boxing gym. I didn't have any boxing experience before I opened the gym, so that's a whole nother story for another day. But what I ended up doing is being pretty successful at that business, and we were very busy, and the head coach I hired needed more coaches. And I said, just show me how to do it. I'll do it. I don't want to pay another coach. So then I learned how to be a coach. And when we started a fight team, we had people who were coming in for fitness and all of that, but we also had a fight team. And the gym I opened in a neighborhood I was from, which was pretty poor, kind of rundown, rough and tough neighborhood. And so we had a lot of kids coming in off the streets and whatnot. So we had a youth boxing program, a fight team. And I thought, well, if I'm telling these kids what to do in the ring, what they're supposed to be feeling, I need to have an idea of what that is. And I just decided, well, I might as well step into the ring and compete so that I have more knowledge as a coach, which is what led me into the ropes and to compete. And I did compete in the amateurs for a few years. Again, it was really to get more experience in the ring so that I could become a better coach. So yes, I've been around the sport, in the sport for 27 years, so quite a long time. And this was a long time ago when there were not a lot of girls and women boxing.
Yes, that's what I was gonna say. Boxing, I mean, it's not a sport that people immediately think of the women's side of it. And that this is one of those sports that definitely has grown, gained more attention over the years. But this year in the Olympics, I think we're seeing maybe some of the most attention boxing has ever received. But unfortunately, not for good reasons. Not because people are starting to realize how great of a sport it is or how much hard work the women have put in to get to it, but because we are now seeing happen to boxing, what we've seen happen to countless other sports over the years, but not at this level. We are now seeing men compete in boxing at the women's level. And so we talk about all the time, soccer is a sport where, you know, you're hitting each other shoulder to shoulder, running into each other. You see it happen in basketball. You see these sports where you're actually having those physical interactions with who you're competing against, but nothing like boxing. And you have, again, you have this background, you've coached, you've boxed. What is that feeling? Just even a woman hitting a woman. I mean, that has to be an intense feeling, and then to bounce back and keep fighting. What is that like?
Yes, it takes, I think, a special breed of a person to get in there and be able to get hit and not just turn around and run out of the ring. So it's kind of that fight or flight thing you have going on. And you know, you get hit and you go, okay, well, why did I get hit? And you start thinking of strategy. You know, boxing's very strategic, but it also is very physical. So if you're taking a punch from a woman, sure, it hurts, obviously, but if you're taking a punch from somebody who has an XY chromosome, well, that is a whole nother story. And I've been there before, but from a young male, from, you know, a 16, 17-year-old boy that damaged my ribs. And that was just in sparring. And he didn't mean to do it. You know, that's the other thing, is that when you're competing, so sparring is one thing. There are plenty of women who have sparred with men, but they go easy on the women. You know, that's always something that we've always, it's unwritten in the gym. You go easy on the gals that you're sparring with. You're helping them out. When you're competing, it's you know, you can amplify that 100 times as far as the intensity that goes into that goes into your punches. You know, it's just like night and day. So when we're talking about an XX chromosome boxing, an XY chromosome person, it's extremely dangerous and it can be deadly. Absolutely.
And that's unfortunately when people say, when will enough be enough? I mean, we're not that far away now from a woman unfortunately dying due to an injury, especially when it comes to having to compete in boxing. And so, women's boxing in the Olympics, we all of a sudden see it's on social media, it's all over the TV that there could potentially be, and now it's confirmed, we know it's confirmed, but when it first all broke out, there was a lot of back and forth on, is there an XY chromosome? Is there not, competing in the women's category? When this all first broke out, what was your immediate reaction?
I was in disbelief. I didn't think it would ever get to this level. But on the other end of it, the IOC, within that realm, there's no governing body for boxing right now. So all the other sports you have, you know, World Athletics, World Aquatics, those are all governing bodies for the sports. Well, with boxing, they removed the IBA. They're saying they're corrupt, you know, they're giving whatever reason as to why not to believe these test results. Whatever reason that they removed the IBA, it has nothing to do with what's going on right now. And I think people need to understand that. It might have had to do with finances. I'm not exactly sure, but it had nothing to do with them testing 2 individuals, actually 4 individuals in 2022, 2023, and the IOC getting those test results. It has nothing to do with that. Now, we don't have a governing body in boxing for the Olympics. So the IOC said, well, we'll do it. They don't know anything about boxing. So to not believe the IBA and 2 independent tests and results that had occurred is ludicrous, you know. And again, it's this propagation. I don't understand what's going on, but if you go through the first 8 pages of Google, all you'll see is certain media outlets, and all it is about, you know, victimization, you know, the poor person that is being bullied. This person is a woman, they're not a man. It's unreal to me that that's going on when there is proof. And if the IOC really wanted to have the right answers, they could do a simple cheek swab test. They are not doing that. They decided not to do any testing at all, which would squash everything. But they know that then they would be proven wrong.
Absolutely. And so, like you said, we have the IBA and then the IOC. The IBA, like you mentioned, they did testing on these 2 athletes, Imane Khelif and Ting, who are the 2 XY chromosome athletes in the Olympics. But they also did it on a couple other athletes a couple years back. And then they finally came out, they had this press conference, I think 2 days ago now, and said they informed the IOC of these test results. They informed the IOC that they were not able to compete when IBA did these tests. And so what are your thoughts? Do you think the IOC just is okay with men competing? Do you think they just wanted to ignore it? Why do you think they ignored the warning from the IBA?
There's this complete agenda of inclusivity, and it's gone so far in the wrong direction that now we're having, you know, men competing against women biologically. You know, this is the thing also. Everyone's talking about, well, these individuals on their birth certificate, it says that they are female, but that's a piece of paper. It's not what's in their biology. What's in their biology, you can tell by a cheek swab test, a DNA test, blood test. That's how you tell what's going on inside of the body, the biology of the body, which is really the most important thing we need to be looking at when we're talking about competitive sports.
Absolutely. And like you said, I mean, I know we're working with different countries here, but within the United States itself, there are certain states that you legally can now go change your birth certificate and what sex it says you were born as. And so the IOC is basically saying, well, their passport says they're a female. And again, instead of, you can change passports, you can change birth certificates, you can edit all these papers, but you can't change biological truth. And I want to touch on, you're right, if you search on Google right now about this, it is this whole, well, they're women, they were raised as women, and you know, this is heartbreaking, poor them. I just had someone comment on one of my social media posts about this and was like, they just found out they have XY chromosomes and now you're going to call them a man. Like, how would you feel if you just found that out? And it's like, no, first of all, the IBA knew this like 2 years ago. Second of all, I just find it hard to believe that these men didn't know they were men. I mean, we have the testing for this, but let's touch on that. There was a lot of confusion in the air about if these men were men or not. And people went back and forth. I mean, people who are even standing against men and women's sports were like, hey, we're not sure yet. Those XY tests were revealed. When you saw that those XY tests were revealed and they were continued to allow to compete, were you shocked at all or no, because this is what's just been happening?
I was shocked, but the thing is that they keep on spinning it that the IBA is corrupt and they can't trust the test results, but they're not elaborating on the tests, that these were 2 independent tests done at independent labs. It's not the IBA doing the tests. And what is their motive? They have no motive here. Yeah, and they let the IOC know what was going on 2 years ago, 1 year ago, and yet the IOC did nothing about it. So it's shocking, but they're just going to keep on going down this path until something really happens, until all of the women stand up in the sport and step out of the ring, or until somebody steps down in the IOC, until we get a cheek swab test, or until a woman gets seriously injured or dies in the ring. Those are some of our options right now.
And women have now begun to push back and protest against this. I mean, we saw a couple of days now, the boxer from Bulgaria, she puts up her fingers doing the little XX symbol, protesting that. We saw that just happen again today. Another woman for the semifinals, she put up the XX symbol for that. So even the women in the Olympics are pushing back. But for the general public, for those listening to this podcast episode, how do you think they can get involved in pushing back against this ideology?
Sadly enough, I think it's through social media, and it's going and sharing the truth. If you can go on social media and share the truth as much as possible, that's how we get it done. The media they'll say what they want to say with whatever agenda is going on at the time. So you can't always have true media and get the truth from media, but if you can research, I'm talking doctors. I'm not saying like go off of someone's ideology or someone's opinion of what they think, or a piece of paper, but really kind of dive into the biology of everything and listen to and read from doctors that know about this subject and share and repost. I think that's how we get it done.
Absolutely. And you have taken a very vocal stand against this. Why did you feel the need? I mean, it's so easy to just say, I don't want to get controversial. I don't want to, lose friends or get attacks on social media. It's so easy to stay quiet right now. What made you feel the need to speak out?
You know what? I didn't even think about it. I feel so strongly about it, and I know what's right and wrong, and I know what's fair, and I know what's safe. Especially being in the sport for so long, but just as an athlete, as a coach, no matter what sport it is, I understand the reality of it, and I have common sense, and I know that what's going on right now is wrong. So there was no second guessing or thinking about, if I was going to be vocal about it. And it's not picking a side. It's not political, by the way. It's not religious. That has nothing to do with that. Nothing at all. Doesn't matter who I vote for or what I believe in religiously. This is just right and wrong, and it's reality. The reality of it. It's science and it's biology. I have had, folks that I guess that have been friends of mine on social media and feel so strongly the other way that they just, that's it. They don't want anything to do with me anymore. And that's okay. But I do believe that we can have different opinions. People can have different opinions and not use that as a reason not to still be engaged with that person. I think that there's a lot of division going on in the country right now, and it's really sad. And I think that if we continue to, have disagreements and not basically agree on the same things, then we shouldn't continue to just separate ourselves from each other, because it's just causing such a separation. And that's not a good thing. So I think everybody needs to kind of take a deep breath. And if somebody has a different opinion than you, they're obligated. They can have that different opinion, but you can't try to force your own opinion down someone's throat. And that goes kind of for everything. But we can be knowledgeable. I think before we become opinionated about something, please just gain some knowledge and really dig deep about the facts.
Absolutely. And I mean, when it comes to the whole men and women's sports issue, like you said, everything aside, we're on the side of facts, of scientific, biological facts. And so we need to study up and be prepared to be able to have those conversations. I mean, we're not going to change what's happening if we don't, like you said, take that deep breath and start having the conversations. If we just keep going back and forth and being fine, I can't talk to you anymore because what you believe in is delusion. Do we all feel that way sometimes? Yes, because it gets so frustrating to see this happen to women. But take
Yes.
the deep breath and just give them the facts, give them the stats that this is not fair at any level. And allowing men into women's sports isn't inclusive, it's exclusive to the women. Um, with that, every day something's been changing with this whole situation because we have two boxers in two different weight categories that are male that have the XY chromosomes. And so it's like, feels like every day we're seeing them box again and women getting beat up. We now know they are both headed in their weight group to the final to fight for a gold medal. That means we've seen 6 women now have to box against men. What are your just feelings going into, I mean, I believe it's the 9th and the August 9th and August 10th are the 2 finals, knowing that a man now has the opportunity to get a gold medal in women's boxing?
Uh, I feel really sad. I feel sad for the women. I feel sad for the young women, the girls who are growing up right now and who are getting involved in the sport. I don't want this to be a deterrent for them. I want them to continue to fight, continue to train, and not let this, kind of hinder their direction. That's my biggest concern is really, I mean, if you have a goal in mind and you're putting your everything, your blood, sweat, and tears into that, all of your years, you don't want to see something like this and think to yourself, well, what's the point? I just don't want this to be a deterrent for them because if all of us stand up and speak out, they won't have to worry about this in the future for the next Olympics. But we have to do the work now so that it doesn't happen in the future. Yeah, for them competing for a gold medal, I just, it's really upsetting. It's very upsetting. And, again, it's not bullying the athletes. And I know that that's kind of what everybody's kind of running with in the media. It's not about that. It's, we're not bad mouthing the athletes. We're bad mouthing the IOC, the way that they're kind of governing boxing when they really don't know how to govern boxing, and the regulations, the rules, everything that's going on that they're not doing. That's really what everything is about. It's about them and their lack of getting things done the right way.
Absolutely. And I mean, you said it earlier, a simple cheek swab test would solve all of this. And so they're choosing to not do that. They're choosing to not really make any clear statements. I mean, I don't think I've seen any solid, clear statement come out of the IOC as the IBA has been press conference after press release and announcement left and right. And so it's horrifying we're seeing this happen, that we're glorifying males punching females for a sport now at this rate. But part of me also feels, and I'd love to hear how you feel about this, maybe we had to see it on the Olympic stage, men and women's sports on that big of a stage for everyone to wake up. And because for so long, people have been saying this isn't actually happening.
This is true. Yeah. I pretty much think the same thing. It had to happen in a big way for people to wake up, or if they were already awake, to actually speak up about it and take heed to it and go, wow, this is actually really a problem. It's not just a problem for women, it's a problem for everybody. If you're a parent, if you're a coach, everybody's involved in this. And yeah, it's a huge problem. And to happen on a big stage, it really kind of smacks everybody in the face and tells them to wake up.
Absolutely. And I want to dive into your brand that you started, Tussle. But before you dive into that, is there anything else you want to just make a remark about what's going on at the Olympics and what we've seen from these two athletes?
I think at the end of the day, we need to just look at facts. We need to look at biology. For a man to compete against a woman obviously is not fair and it's not safe in any sport, especially a combat sport. But we really need to know exactly what the facts are. And I don't think anyone is truly giving that to us. And with the IBA, they've been silenced. So by different countries and Algeria and Taiwan, and that's because they don't want these results to come out. So they've already been told you cannot release those actual test results. And that's sad. We need to just all come out with the truth. If there are test results, we need to see them. If you don't want to show them, then do more tests and release those tests. It's not about privacy at this point. It's about safety and fairness. So it's just not about privacy. That's the thing. If I'm a woman, I'm competing in a sport, and they say, well, we need to do a DNA test, we need to do a genetic test, we need to do whatever test to prove that you're a woman. Great, let's go. There should be no problem with that. So yeah, that's really what needs to be happening.
Absolutely. And like you said, I mean, I grew up playing soccer, played college soccer, and at any point, if they were like, hey, we're going to do a quick cheek swab test to prove you're a woman, go ahead. I have nothing to hide. I mean, we got pulled into literally having to do drug tests where you have to pee in front of someone. And it was same thing. This is just part of it. Got it, do it, hand me the cup, I'll pee in the cup. Someone watches me do it. I have no problem doing it because I have nothing to hide. And so I don't think there's anything wrong with a little cheek swab test. But when you have something to hide, I guess that's where the problem comes into play. But
True.
with that, your brand, Tussle, I love when you go on the website, one of the first things you see, yes, cute shirt, there you go. But I love that it is women's fight gear made by her for her. Why did you feel the need to start this and kind of now go outside of just boxing and coaching and that and to start a whole brand?
Yeah, well, over these years, I've definitely noticed that there's not a lot of combat gear for women, specifically for women. We always say we had to buy the shrink it and pink it stuff. So the big the big boy brands, they would put out their gear and they'd put some pink on the glove and make it a smaller size, but there was never anything done with the actual form of the glove, whether it like the molding is still the same for a man than, for their female glove. So we've really tried to take that and change those to fit our hands. We have different wrist structuring. We have different widths and lengths of our palms. That our thumbs are situated differently. There's so many differences between our hands and a man's hands, and I really wanted to offer something for our girls and our women that fit them properly and also that looked great. There's not a lot of combat gear out there that looks cool, so we really wanted to make something very aesthetically pleasing, and something that was kind of a little bit more fashionable, kind of fight fashion, if you will. So that's really, what I wanted to do. I wanted to do it for all of our women out there in our combat sports. I've just worked with thousands of girls and women, and, you figure out that there's a gap in the market and you got to fill it. So that's why Tussle came about.
I love that. I mean, so many people are saying, and it's true to a certain extent, that we're in this situation with men and women's sports because the feminists have kind of put pushed and allowed for that. And what you're doing is what a true feminist should be doing is, okay, here's what we're missing for women's sports in this area of boxing. How can we improve that? And so I love that. And I mean, I love that you're like, it's kind of fashionable too and having different options. Because for me, like anytime I would go to choose out a new pair of cleats when I was younger for soccer, I was like, okay, which ones are cute? Which ones, like, I had the certain brands I liked, but I was always looking for the fun, different colors or different things. And so that's so amazing that you're bringing that into boxing of, um, just having this brand for women to choose from. And I also just talking about that alone, that men have the thumbs are different, the hands are different. I mean, that's enough evidence to also prove why men and women should have their two different categories, like that alone.
Right, right. Why do we have women's gear and men's gear? Well, because we're built differently. I don't know.
Exactly. Yes. No, I absolutely love that. And I kind of touched on this in the beginning. Women's boxing is getting a lot of attention right now. Unfortunately, not for a good reason, unfortunately, because of the situation we're in at the Olympics. But what is your like if your dream of women boxing, like how do more girls get involved in that if that because it's something that normally when you're 5 years old, your parents aren't like, hey, let's try out like T-ball and then boxing. So how do girls get more involved in that, learn more about it?
You know, I'm seeing a lot more young girls getting involved in a lot of different combat sports. It could be boxing, Muay Thai, kickboxing, jiu-jitsu, and so on. So I'm actually really seeing a lot of it. You know, like I said before, I'm just hopeful that something like what's going on right now gets stopped, so that these girls don't feel like it's all for nothing. I definitely think that more it's become acceptable for the young girls to, you know, get in there and throw a punch or wrestle or whatever they're doing. But I also think that a lot of the girls are allowed to come into those spaces because of self-defense. So I think a lot of parents are wanting their young girls to learn some self-defense, and which really kind of just means self-confidence. It's not like a young girl is going to be able to defend herself necessarily against an attacker, but what happens is that they start to gain a lot of confidence from doing the combat sport and learning it. So when they walk around, they're very aware of their surroundings. They kind of walk with a certain gait that is more confident, and therefore the predators don't prey on those girls because they're not easy prey. I mean, it's kind of an animalistic thing, but that's really what it comes down to is if you're walking around and you look confident, then most people won't mess with you. That includes bullies.
No, absolutely. And so, Cary, what is just I just want to open it up for any piece of advice you want to leave to all the girls and women that are listening right now.
I would say never listen to naysayers. So if anybody ever tells you you can't do something, never listen to that. Just kind of shut the noise out. If you have a dream, just go for it. I think that everybody can do what they set their minds to. So just don't listen to the noise. And if you're going to be on social media, try not to be a follower, but be a leader, and do what you know is right. What you feel in your gut and your heart that is right, and share that instead of following. You know, sometimes the masses or half the masses are not where you want to be.
Amazing. And
the dog barks.
the
The mailman's here.
Yes.
Oh my goodness. Okay, Sasha. Sorry.
All good. All good. What is the best way if people want to find out more about Tussle, follow you on social media? What is the best way for people to do that?
You can find Tussle at tusslegear.com or Tussle Gear on Instagram. Those are kind of the two main places we're at. And we will be going online at Dick's Sporting Goods at the end of the year.
That's so exciting. That's huge.
Yeah, pretty excited
My
about it.
goodness, congratulations. That's so exciting. And then you yourself are very active on Instagram. And so what is the best way for people to find that?
Yes, I'm Cary Lee Williams. So it's CaryLee Williams.
Amazing. Well, Cary, thank you so much for coming on and giving some insight to this whole Olympic situation that a lot of people have been confused about. I know this is going to help clear the air for a lot of those people. So thank you.
Yes, thank you.